Welcome. We need to have a serious talk today because we're going to be examining a massive structural failure that's hiding in plain sight across the digital world. We're talking about the dangerous gap between how things look and how secure they really are.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll define this core problem, what we're calling the showroom versus vault paradox. Then we're going to get into the very real financial and legal consequences. After that, we'll look at a real-world field audit that is, frankly, shocking. From there, we'll introduce a new way of thinking, a doctrine of security. And finally, we'll break down the specific protocol that makes it a reality. All right, let's get into it.
All right. First up, we're diving straight into the heart of the matter, this fundamental conflict between just looking good and actually being protected, and it's putting countless organizations at incredible risk.
And this quote, man, it just says it all, doesn't it? Companies are spending absolute fortunes on these beautiful, slick, engaging user interfaces. You know, the digital equivalent of a stunning, polished showroom. But what's going on behind the curtain? The core system, the vault where all the actual value is kept, is often left completely undefended.
Okay, so let's put an official name to this. The showroom versus vault paradox. It's what happens when we engineer things for perception, not protection. It's all about making the front end look shiny and impressive, while the back end, the actual engine room, is basically left with the doors unlocked, creating these massive, critical security holes.
And look, this isn't some abstract theory. These are the specific things that are getting missed time and time again. We're talking about basic, fundamental security measures. A content security policy, or CSP, that's like the bouncer for your website deciding which code is allowed in. HSTS, that's a strict rule forcing a user's browser to only talk to your site over a secure encrypted connection. If you miss these basic building blocks, you've basically just left the front door wide open for some really nasty but totally preventable attacks.
So, okay, that's the tech stuff. But what does it actually mean for the business? Well, a problem like this doesn't stay in the IT department for long. No way. It becomes a direct threat to the bottom line and puts a huge amount of risk squarely on the shoulders of executive leadership.
And this is where it gets really serious, because the law is crystal clear on this. Specifically here in the UAE, under the PDPL, if you fail to implement these basic technical safeguards, you are non-compliant. It's that simple. We're talking about pure technical negligence, and that's a legal failure. End of story.
And failing to comply? Yeah, that comes with a pretty staggering price tag. The maximum penalty can hit 5 million dirhams. This is not a slap on the wrist. This is the kind of number that can genuinely threaten a company's future.
But believe it or not, that huge fine, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The average total cost of a single data breach in our region is a mind-blowing $7.2 million US. That number covers everything: the forensic investigations, repairing the systems, the PR nightmare, and all the customers you're gonna lose.
And here's why that number gets so huge. This is crazy. On average, it takes 188 days just to realize a breach has even happened. That means for 6 straight months, the bad guys could be in your system, your money is bleeding out, your data is walking out the door, and the damage just gets worse every single day. Time is the enemy.
Okay, so you might be thinking, is it really that bad out there? Well, we're about to look at some hard data from a field audit of so-called premium, even award-winning digital platforms right here in the GCC. The results? Well, they speak for themselves. And honestly, it's not pretty.
Just look at this report card. Case Alpha gets an F, a total catastrophic failure, a completely defenseless storefront. Case Beta gets a D because it creates this false sense of security but will run any malicious script you throw at it. And Case Gamma, a C, is what we call the complacent standard. The connection is secure, but the app itself is a free-for-all. And listen, these aren't some small-time websites. We're talking about major platforms. Then you see the benchmark, A+.
And let's be 100% clear on what a grade like C or D actually means in the real world. Any grade below an A is technical negligence. This isn't just a low score, it's documented proof of a failure of duty. And that puts the liability right back on the people in charge. So, wow. Given that mess, how do we actually fix this? It requires a total shift in philosophy. It means we have to stop just hoping for security and start enforcing it with a strict, non-negotiable doctrine that's based on data, not old habits.
And this really shows you the two completely different worlds we're talking about. The old way, the legacy way, is all about being lazy and permissive. It uses insecure settings just to get fragile code to work. It's broken by design. The AELION doctrine flips that entirely. Security isn't an option, it's the law. Nothing, and I mean nothing, gets to compromise the integrity of the system just because it's a cool visual effect.
Okay, a strong philosophy is great, but how do you actually make it happen? Let's get into the specifics of the protocol that makes this doctrine a reality. This is all about putting your guards at the outermost perimeter, at the very edge of your network.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. This is how the protocol locks things down. First, instead of one master key, it creates a brand new single-use security policy for every single person who visits your site. Second, all these security rules get applied way out on the network edge, like a checkpoint far away from your main base, before traffic even gets close to your servers. Third, it forces every single browser to use a secure encrypted connection, and then tells that browser, hey, for the next year, don't even think about connecting to us any other way. And finally, the big one, zero trust. Nothing gets a free pass. Every single script has to be on an explicit approved list or it's blocked, period.
And really, it all comes down to this quote. For too long, we've all been trained to think of security as something you bolt on at the end, like an afterthought. This approach says no. Security isn't a feature, it is the foundation. It is the system.
So this all leads to one final, very important question. A question you really need to be asking your team right now. After seeing the risks, the legal exposure, and the technical failures, you have to decide, is your most valuable digital asset just an undefended showroom designed only to look good? Or is it a fortified vault, engineered from the ground up to protect what actually matters? Because in today's world, the answer to that question has never been more critical.